Hello and welcome to the Fall 2026 edition of PSY 120 Careers in Psychology, Neuroscience, and Human Development. My name is Dr. Tamara Daly, and I'll be your instructor for this 7-week course. The purpose of this video is to introduce you to the class and give you a bit of an orientation to the content resources that you'll be interacting with during the course. I'll start here on D2L on the course homepage. We'll also take a look at the syllabus. We'll go to a website called Perusal, which is where your textbook will be housed and where you will be interacting with each other and with me as you learn the material that will be presented in the course. And then finally, I'll briefly show you the playlist of videos that are housed on YouTube, which is an alternate location where you can watch the video lectures for this class. On the home page, it's a quick space where you can find some information that you may need on a regular basis. If you want to get in touch with me, my office number is 206-TNH. I will mostly be available on Tuesdays and Thursdays in person, as I teach 2 other courses on those days. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I will largely be teaching from home. So your best way of getting in touch with me is by email. If you want to make an appointment to meet with me in person or online, you can use my bookings page. Bookings is a Microsoft application that allows you to put yourself on my calendar at times when I am available. Other things you can find on the home page, there is a content browser which you can use to find the resources that you're looking for on the D2L page. You can also use these tabs at the top to do much of the same things. There's also a brief description of getting access to your textbook, which I'm not going to go into in detail at this point in time because I'll be giving you a description at length in a little bit. So we're going to start by going up to the Content tab and navigating to the Start Here part of the D2L page. So starting with the welcome, my contact information is repeated here, my email address, my phone number, and also my bookings link, and a brief description of who I am. Yes, I've been here a really long time. I started in 1993. I believe I'm starting my, 34th year of teaching. The next section is an orientation of the course. This is actually where you've probably found this exact video. Obviously it's not on the page you're looking at because I'm recording it at this moment. So that video will be presented there. One thing that's important for you to recognize, this is an asynchronous online course. That means we will not be meeting as a group, either in person or online. You will be expected to manage your schedule, complete your work on a weekly basis, on your own time. Many students find that to be really convenient, a great way to take a class. Other students find that managing their time is quite challenging, so make sure that you're talking with me if you're having difficulty keeping yourself on track. The course description is pretty straightforward. What we wanted to do as a department with this course is to give our students a broad introduction to the really very large range of possibilities for careers that are connected to psychology, neuroscience, and human development. As a result, what we're going to do is explore all of the majors that are offered by the department as they are connected to various types of career paths. Some of you know exactly what you want to do. Others have no idea what you want to do after college. Most of you are probably somewhere in the middle there. So all of you will benefit, though, from looking at the full range of opportunities. The only prerequisite for this course is PSY 110 or an equivalent. There are some rare situations where we waive that. If you are a person who's never had an introductory psychology course, please let me know, and I will help you make a decision whether it's the right time for you to be taking this class. The other requirement is that you must be a major in psychology, neuroscience, or human development. The reason for that is we often have a lot of people from outside the program attempting to take the course simply because it's a 2 credit hour online course or because they're minoring. This course does not count toward the minor in psychology or in neuroscience or in HDFS. So be aware of that. Sometimes we have students who sign up for this course, they take it, and then they're kind of irritated when they have to take another full 4 credit hour course to meet the requirements for the minor. So if you are in that situation, please let me know and we can talk through what your options are. The objectives of the course, by the time you've completed all of the requirements of this 7-week course, you should be able to show an understanding of the full range of career options in our various disciplines. You should be able to understand what is required to have a career in those various areas, like what degrees are required, what certifications are required, what kind of careers don't require any kind of advanced degrees that you could pursue right away, or even while you're still a college student. We also want you to do some pretty detailed exploration of who you are, what your interests are, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and so on. And then finally, we want you to do some solid planning to make sure that you're pursuing coursework as an undergraduate that will maximize your ability to get to the goals you want to get to. Your syllabus is available on this tab. There's a Word version of the syllabus. There's also a PDF version of the syllabus. When you click on the PDF syllabus, it will open in your browser. This is the current syllabus. I try very hard to have the overwhelming majority of the information that is present in the syllabus also showing up on D2L. The only thing in this syllabus that really will be important to you that isn't present on D2L in one tidy little capsule is the schedule. Each week there will be a set of deadlines, and those will show up on D2L. But if you want a snapshot of the entire calendar, that's going to show up here in the syllabus. The course description and purpose, we've already talked about that. I do make a connection to the program learning outcomes in the syllabus. You can read those on your own. There's a technology requirements statement, which is pretty consistent across campus. All of us as faculty members have basically the same kinds of basic expectations. One important thing for you to remember, I do expect you to use Microsoft Word. Not Google Docs, not PDF. I want you to turn your assignments in Microsoft Word. Why do I expect that? Primarily because that is the most efficient way for me to get you feedback. You are provided with access to Office 365 as a student of Mount Union, so I expect you to use it. Your textbook is going to be accessible through Perusal, which I'll talk about in more detail in a little bit. It is a part of the Rater Ready program. You should receive, and we have a new bookstore vendor now, Go eCampus, I guess it's called. And I have worked with them over the summer to make sure that you will be sent your purchase codes so that you can access your textbook on Perusal. Access is kind of a 2-step process. You have to enroll in my class on Perusal, and I'll show you, how to do that in a little bit by using this code right here, daily 3MZVP, which means absolutely nothing. It's just a randomly generated code. The next step, though, is when you try to open the textbook the first time, you will be prompted to put in a purchase code or to buy it with a credit card. And basically what you're doing is getting rental access. Through Rater Ready, you shouldn't have to do that purchase. Unless you've opted out of Rater Ready, you should be sent a purchase code. If you run into problems with this, you can contact eCampus. You can also contact the university store, and you can contact me. This next section of the syllabus goes over brief descriptions of the assignments, expectations about when you need to turn things in, and how many points, what percentage of the final grade each of your assignments is worth. You'll notice that there are points that are allotted to 4 assignments that are spread out over the course of the 7 weeks. And then there's a perusal reading engagement element to your grade. And I'll be showing you when we go to perusal, I'll show you exactly what that means. But that one is cumulative. Assignments 1 through 4 are separate from each other, and each account for about 20% of your grade. This is a grading scale that the entire Department of Psychology, Neuroscience, and Human Development uses. It's a pretty straightforward, commonly used grading scale. In terms of flexibility, there's always the possibility that stuff will come up and I may need to change something. That's a rare event, but it's always possible. Make sure that you are checking your email on a very regular basis. I recommend checking your email at least once a day for communications from faculty. Remember that your faculty really have no other way of communicating with you other than your Mount Union email. I've run into a lot of students over the years who are just like, I didn't know. And the reason they didn't know was because they had not checked their email. If I have to communicate with you either as an individual or as a whole class, what you're going to get is an email through the Mount Union system. So make sure that you're checking. At the bare minimum, you'll get 1 email from me every week, kind of prepping you for the week to come, giving you reminders, and so on. If I need to reach out to you as an individual, it's going to be through your email address. There are some other elements that are described here. An important one is there is a university-wide AI policy, which I'm guessing that you're acquainted with. If you're a first-year student, you may not be. But basically, it is not permissible without explicit permission of your instructor to present AI works as assignments. So basically, it's going to be an academic dishonesty example if you try to present an AI created work as your own. If you're using AI to produce, revise, or substantially edit written work, solving math equations, using AI to produce speeches, or to produce PowerPoint decks, and any other kind of AI use that's not allowed by your instructor. In this course, basically, this is my course policy. It's the same policy I use for all of my classes. Artificial intelligence language models like ChatGPT or Claude, and assignment help tools, things like Grammarly and Chegg, are online learning support platforms, essentially. And you are not permitted to use them for course assignments. I am not permitting you to use them. Submitting any or all of an assignment, submitting any or all parts of an assignment to an online support platform and saying, write this for me, is inappropriate. And if I recognize it, I will be turning you in. Using any part of an AI generated response in an assignment, using AI to brainstorm, using AI to summarize, submitting your own work for this class from an online support platform like Grammarly, none of those things are appropriate. So, and to be honest, the assignments that I give you here, you're really just talking about yourself for the most part. I have had students on one of the assignments attempt to have AI produce Bureau of Labor Statistics information. And as of a couple of months ago, both ChatGPT and Claude were really, really bad at it. So, I'll be able to tell if you've done that because it does tend to hallucinate and produce false information, regardless of which platform that you're using. In terms of online conduct, because this is an online course, we will primarily be interacting through perusal. I expect, and I'm guessing this is not a shock to you, I'm expecting that you use appropriate language and interactions in that online space. In perusal, you'll be able to interact with each other, to comment on each other's posts, to ask questions, and so on. I expect that you will be professional in your interactions with each other in that environment, which means no abusive language. In my everyday life, I have quite the potty mouth, but I do not use it in a professional context. So I expect you on perusal to use professional language and speech and to be kind and responsive to one another. Always, always, always put curiosity before anything else. In terms of interaction, my commitment to you as an online instructor is to be available to you, to meet with you either online or in person. You can use that bookings link that's in the syllabus and on the D2L homepage in order to set up those appointments. I will be providing you with weekly updates about your course content. That will be in the form of email. I will be interacting with you every week in your reading assignments on perusal, and I will provide you with timely feedback on your assignments. All right, and this is the schedule for the 7 weeks. What you'll see on the schedule is the topic for the week, the reading assignment for the week, and any other university-wide deadlines that may be of interest to you. During week 1, we'll be sort of getting ourselves introduced to this process of choosing a major. Some of you have already made those choices, but it doesn't hurt you a bit to sort of review that process for yourself. And then we'll talk a bit about what does it mean to major in these fields, and how does that help you to pursue your career. Then we'll launch into looking at the various sub areas within psychology. Clinical counseling and school psychology are up first, psych and law, health, sports, biopsych, industrial, organizational, and experimental, social, consumer, developmental. And then we'll wrap up the semester by talking about next steps. How do you find a job with a bachelor's degree? What does it mean to need a graduate degree? And how do you get into graduate school afterwards? Please note that all of your deadlines are articulated on this schedule. They are repeated on the D2L page as well. As I mentioned, your course textbook will be available only on perusal. Don't go buy your own copy of the book. If you are a person who has a great deal of difficulty reading online, I do have a physical copy you can make copies of, or if you feel like you need to invest in a paper copy, the book is not particularly expensive. You will still be required to interact with your peers on perusal, regardless of what you're reading with. You will still need to be able to go on to perusal and do your homework in that space. Now, getting on to perusal, as I mentioned when going over the syllabus, it's a 2-step process. Some of you will have already used perusal in other courses. If not, it's not that challenging. It's a little bit of a steep learning curve at first, but once you get into the flow of it, it's really not very hard. So you'll navigate to perusal. If you do not yet have an account, you will need to create one. And it's free. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to put in a credit card. You sign up with your email. I would recommend that you use your Mount Union email to do that. create a password, and so on. Once you get in and you're registered as a perusal user, then you need to enroll in my course. So here I've already logged in. My courses that I've created are here below. Once you are enrolled in courses, your courses will show up down here. Now, your first step is to enter the enrollment code. So going back here, this is the enrollment code, Daily 3M ZVP. So you'll go to the enrollment code and you'll enter that code right here and click OK. Once you do that, you'll see a page that looks very much like this. And what you see on the at first glance is everything's divided up by week. So you have chapters 1 and 2 in week 1, chapters 3 and 4 in week 2, and so on, all the way down to the final week of the semester. When you click on chapter 1 the very first time, you will be prompted to either purchase, access, or to enter a purchase code from your bookstore. So what should happen is that the bookstore vendor should be sending you a purchase code, or you should be able to pick up an envelope with that purchase code in it at the bookstore the first week of class. Now, when I click on it, I already have access to the book, so it's not going to ask me that question. So when I open it up, it's going to give me some options, and I'm going to open the assignment. What you'll notice is it'll start with the actual text. You'll notice there are 2 parts to each assignment. So there's the chapter that you read, and then there's just a learning assessment, a formative assessment. The combination of reading and your reactions to the reading and the chapter quiz make up your grade for each chapter assignment. Now, the way perusal works, it's kind of, I look at it as social media for reading. And what you'll be doing is reading along. And if you find something interesting that makes you think or gives you, prompts a question in your mind, what you do is you highlight it, and then what will pop up is a text box. And you can type your comment and post it. And that will be viewable by me and by everyone else in the class. And what I've always found with this class in particular is that students have the best questions. And I'm often sent, not usually in chapter 1, but when we get into the different career areas, I'm often sent on a hunt onto the internet to find you really, really good information to answer your questions. So I encourage you to ask questions, to bring in your own experiences, to talk about anything of interest to you that's related to your reading. Over the course of the chapter, the assignment, you will be expected to make a minimum of 3 meaningful comments. Now, by meaningful comments, what does that mean? Because your comments and questions are going to be scored. If you make no comment, you get a 0. If you make a comment that basically is just, yeah, I agree with that, you're going to get a 0. If you repeat what the authors said using slightly different words, you might get a 1 or a 2. If you make an insightful expansion beyond the text, asking a question, making a reflection, you'll get full credit for your comments. Now, what I do when I'm working with your comments, because I read every single comment, the perusal system evaluates the cognitive complexity of what you post and then gives you a score from 0 to 3. And I go back through and I evaluate to make sure that I agree with the computer that is making those judgments. Usually if I disagree, it's because I think your comment or question is fine and I upgrade it. So I will go back into the grade book and look at scores. So I can see there are no students enrolled at the present time. So I don't see any student names. Your name will be here and all of your scores will be present for each of the chapters. And I will can change them if I want to. So that's the basics of how perusal functions. When you're in each of the chapters, since each assignment is a 2-part assignment, you'll read your chapter, you'll make your minimum of 3 comments or questions, and then you'll complete the quiz. The score that goes in the grade book for perusal is an average that's based on the evaluations of your comments individually, plus your score on the quiz. So it creates an amalgam score for you, and you'll get that for every chapter in your reading. As I said, if you've never used perusal, it can be, a little bit weird at first, but do know that you can post all kinds of things when you're in here. So if I go down here and I want to make a comment on this quote, notice that I can put in links, I can put in videos, I can, make all kinds of connections. So if I saw something, say on YouTube, that I thought relates really well or gives a really good example of something I've read, I can give you the link to that YouTube. Or if I know a website that is a professional organization very specifically to, say, rehabilitation psychology, when we get to that chapter, I can give you the link to that website so that you can look at it. There is a short description here of how to use perusal, little description of the grading system and the way it works, and so on. You can go to perusal. They have a getting started page to help you understand the process a little more if you need it. You can also, meet with me, or we can schedule a call. Where you're going to spend most of your time on D2L is inside the weekly modules. So each weekly module, and I can bump this up to full screen, is going to be laid out pretty much the same way. There will be a brief overview of the week. There's a video overview of the week, a set of learning objectives for the week, and then I lay out your tasks. So for week 1, you need to deal with the orientation page, which if you're watching this video, you already are. Good job. Task 2, read and review the entire syllabus carefully. Put your assignment deadlines in your calendar, on your phone, or in your planner. And then read chapters 1 and 2 on perusal. Complete your annotations and your chapter quizzes by the end of the week. If you want to look at printed copies, there are PDF versions of the PowerPoints posted here to D2L. The links to your video lectures will be housed on D2L. You can also find them on the YouTube playlist. So each week is going to be laid out in pretty much the same way. So in week 2, and this is where I start providing you with extra information that you can use to further your exploration. Like we're going to be talking about clinical counseling and school psychology. So I provided you with links to the APA divisions that are relevant to that, giving you information on your first written assignment that will be due for the 7 weeks, overview of the week, set of learning outcomes, and then the tasks that you're expected to complete. All right, so each of the weekly modules is outlined here and should be pretty straightforward. As always, if you have questions, if you have concerns, make sure that you reach out to me sooner rather than later. Now, before I conclude this video, I do have a playlist on my channel. I find it really weird to talk about having a channel on YouTube, but I do have a full playlist on YouTube. There are many videos on here, and I am in the process of reorganizing and setting up the playlist so it's a little more user-friendly than it has been in the past. So this may look a little different by the time you get to it, but it does house all of your lecture videos for the course. Sometimes students tell me that it's easier for them to just go to YouTube and watch their videos when they're, working at the gym or taking a walk or whatever. And that's totally okay with me. But it may be easier to log on through YouTube than it is through D2L in some locations. So you have that as an option that you can use. All right, so that concludes the orientation video. As I've said more than once now, if you have questions, you have concerns, make sure that you reach out to me by email or by phone. If it's before the semester starts, since phone calls come through Teams, when I am at home, when I'm not sitting in my office on the Mount Union network, getting a phone call through Teams is kind of hit or miss. So I would recommend email with your questions. And then we can either arrange to talk by phone, or we can set up an online meeting through Teams to have a chat. So I look forward to working with you, and we're all going to have a great session.